Hello and welcome. My name is Afrik Iqbal and you're watching The Mojo Story. The protests against Agnipath, a recruitment scheme for the armed forces, turned violent today as aspirants clashed with disrupted rail and road traffic and also indulged in clashes in several parts of Bihar. The protesters disrupted rail and road traffic in Jahanabad, Buxar, and Nawada districts. Reportedly, in Chhapra, youth burned tires and vandalized a bus. Now, they were all protesting against this scheme. Now, what is the scheme? The scheme was announced on Tuesday by the center. It's a recruitment policy for youth to serve in the armed forces. The scheme will enable youngsters aged 17.5 to 21 to be inducted into any of the three services as Agniveers for a period of 4 years. So that's the Agni Path scheme. We're trying to understand the fallout after the scheme was announced. We're seeing protests. Why are those protests happening? What are the different aspects of the scheme? We're joined by an eminent panel. We're joined by Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, who's a strategic analyst. We are also joined by Major General Dhruv Katoch, who joins us also to discuss on this subject. He's the Director, India Foundation. We are also joined by Major General Yash Moore, who's a defense analyst, and Major General, and we joined also by Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, who's a former DG Infantry. Welcome all to the show. If I can start with you, Major General Dhruv Katoch. I saw your tweet. What do you see? If it's such a transformative scheme and it's said to be a revolutionary sort of a scheme, nothing that has been seen in the past, and why are those protests happening?
Uh, Thank you, Zafar. The first thing which I would like to make a slight differentiation is I do not support the protests. I think
Right,
what the
right.
protesters are doing is wrong, and
Yes,
the army does not need people who are going to go to the streets. So
right.
there are two basically different issues. Now we come to the subject per se.
Yeah,
The Agnipath scheme. Now, I think fundamentally, in my view, the scheme is flawed on a very simple fundamental premise. The
yeah.
question which they have asked is how do we reduce the revenue expenditure? And the two major ways of reducing the revenue expenditure is reducing the pay or reducing the pensions, the pension
Right,
liability. Right.
right.
Now, because we have a young army, people have to retire early, and that is the way to keep the army youthful. And
Yes,
obviously, the pension bill in that sense will be larger. But I think
yes,
fundamentally, the question which was asked was wrong. The question should have been based on, with the present budget, how do we improve the operational efficiency of the armed forces? Now, had
yes,
that question been asked and answered, in, the aspect of revenue also would have been addressed. But let us understand, a very major part of the expenditure also goes into civilian heads, right? We have the ordnance factories, we have the DRDO, we have a whole host of other agencies, right, which
yeah,
also contribute to this to the defense expenditure. None of them are being addressed. We are looking at decision making in the armed forces, the higher level decision making, especially in terms of procurement of defense stores. None of that is being addressed because delayed decision making means very high procurement costs, right? So the only thing which they are looking at is touching the pension liabilities. And to reduce the pension liabilities, they've got onto the scheme of soldiers serving for a period of 4 years. The tour of duty, what it was called. Agnipath is
yes,
a very nice sounding name to give it to it. But listen, what does the scheme entail? And why am I fundamentally against it? A soldier serves for 4 years, including 6 months of training. The turnover which is going to take place is going to be, once the scheme is matured, say within 15 to 20 years, we are going to
yeah,
have 20% of an infantry battalion being turned over every year, right? Out
okay,
of the total manpower which is available with you, 75% will be below 4 years service and 25% will be between 4 and 20 years service. Now, this is not the right combination for you to fight. This is not the right combination which is going to give you dividends in battle. And I think, as far as the motivational levels are concerned, for the commanding officer to motivate his men to say, listen, we are going to die for Izzat and Nishan and all those issues. And we will take this battle forward regardless of the cost. I'm not sure if it'll be that easy for a man to give up his life when he knows, listen, I'm only here for 4 years. After that, they don't need me, right? And I think
That's
this
a
is
that's
where
a
the
that's a
flaw lies.
that's a important point that a person thinks that I'm here for 4 years, not sure whether he will continue or not. Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, do you think the scheme has been thought through before it's being announced?
Okay, thank you for inviting me, Zafar. Uh, the induction of troops into the army, especially, and then later transfer into the CRPF or the CAPFs, has been debated for a long time, over 15-20 years. It's not new. It was initially thought about as about 7 years service. 7 years they would be a lateral transfer into CAPF, and they will provide the right discipline and the right the spirit to energize the CAPF also. So that thing has been in debate, and it has been discussed with the CAPF and the MHA for a very long time. It did not succeed in that present form, and it has come up to this one. If the aim of the exercise is that after 4 years that we are able to induct these people into the CAPF and the state police forces and the state commandos, etc., etc. Well, that's an advantage to the nation, because nation at large will be advantaged. The armed forces is a second issue. So there is a issue here whether the nation wants to take advantage. And I think the scheme to succeed, we have to make sure that there is a lateral transfer. MHA has already tweeted on this one that they will give preference to this one. So, to get into right energy into the other uniformed forces, this scheme will be an advantage. People, their entire LW has been handled by the CRPF. It's not been handled by the military at all. Even the cities in JNK are handled by them. If that's the premise finally which will come through, and these things are not been clarified as yet, but hopefully it will do so. Now, the second part of the story is that, heaven got into this scheme as the way it has been announced. Is it a story which will affect the operational efficiency of a unit?
Yes.
How many people will come? How many people will come to a battalion? A battalion is 850 strong. Only 30 people will join a battalion in a year. That's all. In a 4-year cycle, it will be 120 people who will come as Agni Veers into a unit. After 4th year, there will be, of course, 10% reduction. 25% retention, and the next 30 will come. So if you work out over a 10-year cycle, okay, I would say about 200 people will be in an infantry battalion who will be Agni Veers. Though people have said 50%, but my back of the envelope says about 200 people. 30 in a year implies that if there are 12 platoons there, a platoon will get 2 to 3 boys. To say that the whole thing will become topsy-turvy and the unit culture will go away, the operational efficiency will go away, and there's 2 boys in a platoon will not behave in a manner that they will not be operationally efficient. Well, that is not true. Infantry battalions have the strength to carry, as it is, we carry a large number of people who are low medical categories or makre hain or kaam nahi karte. Those people are also being energized into carrying. So to say 30 in a battalion of 850, I don't think it is right. My last point here is, I absolutely agree with General Katoch. The point is that do we want indisciplined people who are burning buses and trains in the country? Well, discipline should be the first word when you sign an application to join the armed forces. You cannot go across to show indiscipline and then thereafter saying tomorrow I'll join the armed forces and I'll become a goody fellow. That's not done. This is not the kind of discipline that the armed forces want. Here you have to obey orders, even those orders which you may not suit you, because it's question of life and death. So this what is happening, agitation, actually it pains large number of us people who have been in uniform for a long time.
You can see from those visuals, this train set on fire one of the bogies. So obviously, this is the kind of protest that we're seeing on the roads. Obviously, people don't realize that they are going to enter into a force which believes in discipline, and which believes sticking to a certain set of ethos. Major General Yash more, but would you agree that there need to be more clarity? People are not sure that what this scheme is about. Perhaps there is lack of communication. There was just an announcement that was made, but it need to be explained to the people and to the aspirants so that they think that they feel that they're not at a loss.
Zafar, thank you for inviting me for this show and to share platform with some of my very, very respected seniors. So I hold them in very high esteem. I agree with them in all the issues they have raised, but I'll raise further issues because I'm on this issue since December. It was in December when I took out the first video of why no recruitment in the army. And sometimes in December, January, Punjab Kesari के लिए I wrote a Hindi में article कि भर्ती क्यों नहीं हो रही है. So nobody is understanding the angst. We leave the scheme, government comes out with scheme, and I always believe governments always work in the national interest. The leadership works, and I'm not questioning them at all. But my issue is, what about these people? 2.5, 3 years. Today, to become an Air Force soldier in X and Y group, they have to undergo 1 to 2 years of coaching, training, money spent, then examination, group discussion, medical. They had done all that. Many of them were just waiting for call letter. There was celebration their house ki ek bachcha हमारा भर्ती हो गया फौज के अंदर. This has not happened. So somewhere in one stroke, where is the empathy? Where is the empathy of the leadership? I don't know. What is wrong? Why nobody is talking of this 2.5 years? They applied on government notification. Notification आया तभी तो apply किया इन लोगों ने. ऐसी फौज के साथ हुआ. And this is one issue. So somebody has to address this issue, come up and say कि पहले इनको ले लो, because there's no fault. उनको give them age, they become overage. This is a serious issue. This is ये देश का भारत भविष्य बनेंगे जिनके साथ आप cheat कर रहे हो कि आपने उनको भर्ती कर लिया, सब कुछ कर लिया. Now you're not allowing them because your minds have changed. That is one. Now one more issue I want to bring out.
Yeah.
And that issue is that socio-economic angle of rural economy. Please study our rural economies in area which were the catchment areas which the British did from 1905 onward, then First World War, Second World War. Those areas have economically benefited. Large measure, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Western Uttar Pradesh. These were the areas from where the soldiers came. One soldier, Zafar, getting a job in the military and retiring at what a Havaldar or a Subedar changes the dynamics of the family forever. So where is the socio-economic factor? If you don't create jobs, everything you want to do, you want to clean up your books and look very good, then it's a brilliant scheme. Ki pension bhi nahi deni, pay bhi nahi deni, you are cutting down the army by 2-3 lakh rupees. Oh, it looks very nice. But what about empathy? What about socio-economic factors of the rural area? So scheme, we can discuss later. But these two issues, firstly, get these people in.
Well, glad that you raised these issues. We have been discussing this purely from an army's point of view about the scheme, how it will be implemented. But from the point of view of the people who are applying for these posts, 2.5 years is a lot of time. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, you would agree that perhaps you need to turn around and look at the whole thing from the point of view of aspirants, those people who are really applying for these jobs.
Zafar, I'm so sorry. I was going on and off the screen because of some connectivity problem. I haven't actually heard my esteemed speakers so far what their opinions were on this subject. But yes, I've heard them on various occasions otherwise, and I'm sure they would be almost on the similar line. There is no denying the fact that there is definitely a need for people to join the armed forces, and there must be an anxiety that has to be addressed. And all along in this entire scheme of Agnipath that I saw is that the scheme is excellent. There is no denying the fact. If anybody would be very difficult to convince me that the scheme is bad, or what really matters is the implementation of this entire scheme. And the implementation depends on two strong pillars. One, of course, as I see, is the army, where there is no dilution of recruitment. There is no dilution of standards, and therefore, once we are with an open mind accepting these Agni beats, it fills up, kind of the shortages that we are facing. General Sharma knows much about it. that for the last 2 years, there has been no, like Jalmore has been saying, about a lack of people have not been able to join, or whatever the reason it is, that shortfall is there. But however, I think I understand that the shortages in the infantry battalions wouldn't drop less than 5%. Having said that, well, that is something that will be addressed. But yes, the people who would be there in the army through this scheme and retained after being Agniveer obviously would be the best and selected by their respective battalions, and they're going to be serving that battalion. So as Prakash, the force is concerned, yes. The second part, which I would be more interested in, Zafar, I'll just take a second for you, is the government. Now, where the whole apprehensions crop up, apprehensions rise, are the 75%. It is these 75% who seem to be feeling uneasy, because over the years, we've got used to a continuous thing, and rightly so, the kind of socio-economic conditions, like most of us are aware. Everybody wants a government job, and why not? Everybody should get it also, if he is lucky enough and qualify for all of it. But the 75% require assurance that they should not be left out in the street and should not then become, even before the scheme is introduced, we see the kind of things that are happening on the street. If this is the kind which we are going to face, then it is bad. What can the government do? Zafar, I'll take what is that we expect the government to do for all of us is that at least ensure, as a lot of promises have been made, to say so in certainty and in writing, that yes, 25% in any case are getting to get absorbed in the army as sepoys. The balance of them, 15% would get absorbed, say, in the Central Armed Police Force. 15% additional would get absorbed in the C and D group of the government. Another 15% get absorbed in the state police forces. Another, say, 10% get absorbed in the railways. And the balance, about 20 to 30% that are left out, are there are at every district Agniveer skill development and employment centers that come up next to the DC's offices, which are monitored and handled entirely by the industrialists who are keen to take these Agniveers into them. So once this assurance is there, the people would look forward to, then I think those apprehensions, probably the apprehensions are that we are using them and throwing them. That is not the purpose of it. The purpose of it, all of it, is that we see to it, we understand, we know what they're looking at. With these kind of social commitments and the government's promises, not by saying so, but putting it down in writing and ensuring, because what has happened in the past, despite it being so, a lot of times the Ministry of Home Affairs have not accepted our ex-servicemen on various occasions. So these apprehensions. But otherwise, the scheme per se, I think we get the best demographic dividend, which is tech savvy. There is no denying the fact. We get the best to retain within the battalions, as what I lastly heard Jan Sharma very much say, that at any point of time, there wouldn't be more than 30 odd shortages, 30 odd filled up, 10 odd retained. The balance of
the scheme is perfect. The scheme is perfect according to you. And before we talk about the implementation, let's hear what these aspirants who are really preparing and dreaming about a profession in armed forces have to say. We have got a couple of sound bites. Let's play them out.
जी मेरे हिसाब से जो स्कीम आई है वो ठीक है। इससे लोगों को अपनी कैपेबिलिटी का पता चलेगा, वो जवान को पता चल जाएगा कि वो आर्मी के लायक है या नहीं है। क्योंकि कई बार ऐसे देखा गया है कि जो लोग आर्मी में जाते हैं उसके बाद वो क्विट कर देते हैं, क्योंकि उसकी फिजिकल ट्रेनिंग और उसका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाता है, तो कई बार स्ट्रेस के चक्कर में क्विट कर देते हैं। इससे उन्हें एक तरीके का पता चल जाएगा कि वो कहाँ पे स्टैंड लेते हैं। उसके बाद अगर वो 4 साल बाद निकल भी गए तो वो अपने हिसाब से आर्मी के लिए दोबारा ट्राई कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि ऐसा तो है नहीं कि आर्मी उसी समय बंद हो जाती है। दोबारा ट्राई भी कर सकते हैं अगर उन्हें चाहते हैं तो, और अगर वो नहीं चाहते तो किसी और सेक्टर में भी काम कर सकते हैं। और इसमें सबसे अच्छी चीज़ मेरे को ये लग रही है कि आर्मी जो भी भर्ती होगी उसमें से 25% को परमानेंट कमीशन के लिए रखा जाएगा, जो कि एक बहुत अच्छा तरीका है, मतलब जोश आने का बहुत अच्छा तरीका है। अगर सैनिक अच्छे से काम करेगा तो उसे परमानेंट कमीशन भी मिल सकता है, अगर पेंशन और बाकी सारी फैसिलिटी भी मिलेगी तो हाँ मेरे हिसाब से तो ठीक है।
क्योंकि 4 साल का जवान करेगा क्या, वो फौज में जाने से पहले वो सोच लेता है कि मुझे बस फौज में ही जाना है, फौज में ही रहना है। वो अपना मेंटलिटी माइंडसेट पूरा फौज के हिसाब से कर लेता है। फिर 4 साल बाद जब उसे वहां से निकाला जाएगा या वो निकल जाएगा तो उसके बाद उसका माइंडसेट सिर्फ उसी का वही रहेगा कि मैं सिर्फ वही कर सकता हूँ, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं। फौज छोड़ने के बाद जो सैनिक होता है उसकी प्राइमरी सोर्स होती है उसकी पेंशन। उसके बाद उसके प्राइमरी सोर्स नहीं रहेगा तो फिर उससे सेकेंडरी के लिए बहुत भटकना पड़ेगा। या तो आप श्योरिटी दोगे, इसके बाद आप जॉब कंफर्म करके दे ही दोगे, मतलब वहां से निकलने से पहले बंदे के हाथ में जॉब होगी, सैनिक के हाथ में, तो वो सही चीज है। ऐसे आप बोल रहे हो कि इसका मिल जाएगा तो ये कोई वो ही है ना सर। ये तो उम्मीद हो गई बस एक कि हाँ मिलेगा तो ठीक है वरना नहीं.
So you heard from these two aspirants different views, but the sense one that gets, they are worried what happens 4 years later. The point that we are talking about implementation, how will they be, 25% of them will be absorbed, what will be the process, and how the others will be dropped out. Major General Dhruv Katoj.
Zafar, there are a few things which I wanted to say, and then I'll get on to this. One,
Yeah.
you see, it is incorrect to state that only 30 people will join the infantry battalion per year and all that. Let's face the facts. The recruitment is only going to be through Agnipath. They have the ministry has clarified it. So if you take a 20-year period, 75% of the people have to be Agnipath because that is the scheme. If you're only absorbing 25%, then at the end stage, 75% is Agnipath, 25% is the rest. Or you clarify that, or you change those dynamics, you change those mathematics. That is one. Number two, as far as the employability is concerned, now it's very nice for General Kulkarni to say they will be taken in the CRPF, etc., etc. Oh no, it is not going to happen. Please take it from me. It has not happened in the past. It is not going to happen in the future. These people are going to be, they will have, yes, they get 11 point some lakh rupees. They would have saved up another 8 to 10 lakhs. So they'll have a kitty of, say, 20 lakhs. Now, what people are expecting is they will start their own enterprise, right? Now, how many of them are going to start their own enterprise? So I think it's going to be a very wishy-washy thing. It's not going to work out the way, mathematically it sounds good. On the ground, this implementation is not going to be possible. The government jobs are not there. And if these government jobs come the way we are imagining them, then how about the others? You see, there's an overall reduction in the total quantum of jobs and the population is increasing. So different avenues will have to be found. I'm afraid this is not going to work, not in the way it has been envisaged anyway, and it is going to lead to great disquiet. Now, this disquiet, what has been mentioned by some of these youths. My biggest problem is that quite a few will go there. I mean, it won't affect the recruitment. You announce a scheme today, hundreds of thousands will come forward to enroll. That is because we just don't have those opportunities. The job opportunities are not there. But the question is, once they have done their 4 years, the 75% which are not taken, they will be a very unhappy 75%. Out of them, some of them will manage within their own resources. Koi taxi driver ban jayega, somebody will do welding, somebody will do something else, right?
And
But
somebody can become an ATM guard. Some people end up becoming ATM guards also.
So this is going to be a problem. And to expect the government to give them employment, if the government was going to give them employment, why are they stopping it here? So it is not going to, you see, it will not be beneficial to the individual. Most importantly, it will not be beneficial to the Indian Army. I'm quite convinced about it. It is going to hurt our long-term interest. And that is why I feel we need a review. And that review should take place now.
Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, do you think that a review will take place? Obviously, nothing is perfect. It's always work in progress. An announcement has been made, but it will obviously be reviewed. There will be different aspects which will be looked into and taken into consideration, and then perhaps things would streamline. But for the moment, people, aspirants, youth who think that they are going to join the forces and perhaps they would fall in those 75%, what happens to them? They have a genuine reason to be concerned.
Yeah, okay. Now, the fact is that the cabinet note which was issued has, to answer your question first, the cabinet note that was issued has given the responsibility of reviewing it dynamic. It's not a time-being, it's dynamic in nature, and it has been delegated to the Raksha Mantri. So that's a scheme. So it's a review possible because naturally it's a new scheme. This is not recruitment. It's a new recruitment scheme. There's no relationship to the previous one. So it is reviewable. I'll answer some of the other issues here. Now, the previous selectees, what General Moore has read is the right issue. The previous selectees who were selected maybe in whichever form.
Okay, we seem to have lost
many of these people who have taken in have not been taken into a job. 2.5 years they've been waiting. Now they have to, if there has to be some thought process been given to them. In any case, they'll have to go to medical again, and they'll have to go to physical again. Somebody would have bloated maybe by 20 kgs. Somebody would have got medical problems. So the whole cycle of recruitment has to be done. A medical is valid for only 90 days. They have to go through. There is a scheme out here in matters. Now the 75% to go out to be absorbed. Zafar, absolutely, and I've stated this in many forums, including a forum which we had, Sanjay Kulkarni and self sitting there, we thumped the desk and said the government must come up with a scheme for absorbing this 75%. If you don't do it, then the scheme is bound to flounder. And we said it to the fullest of our might, and we were given to understand by the hierarchy who was sitting and responding to our question, okay, this issue is under advisement. There are instruction passed to various ministries. There is a whole of government approach, and it will be addressed. I have no reason to not have faith in the establishment who's answering questions to about 100 odd veterans and asking the same answer. So it was being given. The 30 per unit is a fact, mathematical modeling, which was informed to us officially saying that is 30 only will come in a year to an infantry battalion. That is a given thing. So if I agree, if there's no job given to them after 4 years, there will be a whole lot of unhappy people, and we will have a serious problem of following the scheme up. And I'm sure if the government is making us believe that they will do something about it, it will be done.
And right, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, what are the possible measures, 1, 2, 3, that the government can do to give sort of an assurance to these youth? 75%, some of them would obviously be dropped out, most of them, to give them some sort of an assurance that they won't be abandoned at the end of the day. 4 years is a long time. They will invest 4 years of their lives, and after 4 years, they have to think afresh. They have to start afresh and look at other avenues if they don't find a job in the scheme of things that have been given out right now.
Zafar, you're absolutely right. The acid test of the success of the scheme is based on the 75% of the people who are going out. And those 75% of the people going out, if they go out happily and they walk tall and with pride in the society, that they have left the army or they could not be absorbed in the army, not because they lack talent or anything of that kind, that the number of vacancies were restricted to only 25%. Like it was in the short service commissioned officers. Invariably, earlier, even when I joined, out of 100, only about not even 30% would be selected, and the 70% were always out after 5 years. And they all found their places in the society. Of course, they were officers. Here they are men. And therefore, we have to ensure that the 75% will walk out, and the government can take. See, your screen itself says that the government accepts that 80% recruitment has been shortfall in the CAPF. And therefore, at least as I said, 15% in the CAPF ensured not that vacancies given, and just because they were not filled and they were passed over to the other. Nothing doing. 15% are for the Agni Veers, and Agni Veers alone will fill up these vacancies. Similarly, for the Group C and D employees. Similarly, for the state police. Similarly, for the railways. And similarly, for these industries which are coming up, who, as I said, must be able to establish at every district headquarters Agni Veer skill development and employment center, which addresses their requirement. And therefore, there are some amongst them, you'll be surprised. I must tell you, we can't stretch this argument that our own boys, after all, the ones who were in the army earlier, like us, and the ones who will be coming hereinafter, all the ones who are going to come hereinafter are going to be brilliant. There is no denying the fact. All of them will be well disciplined, trained. What are our apprehensions? Our apprehensions are that they would not be devoted, dedicated, committed because they don't know their future. But once their future is being assured with this 75% going out, and probably a better future than we visualize it, having gone to the police or gone to the railways or Group C&D or into the CAPF or into the industry, then he knows that yes, because what has happened, these are all because in the past, the system has been such that we feel that probably the things all the promises made may not fructify. And even before the scheme has been introduced, we have found the kind of rioters on the street to say that this is what. So we have to ensure that the confidence level, if we want these boys to be walking out tall, we want the Agnipath scheme to succeed, Otherwise, I have no doubt this 75% assured, 25% absorbed. The industry coming forward, the skill development employment centers at all of the district headquarters where the DC or the DM sit. I think the scheme will be successful. The army will get its manpower. The combat potential will not be compromised. It will enhance. We will use the demographic dividend. The youth profile will be there. However, as far as the regimentation is concerned, to a large extent, it will be ensured. There is no denying. General Sharma is aware how it will be done. Maybe all India, all class system may bring in about 10% people from outside. I think that's a healthy mix. Slowly and steadily, it's time we got out of it, not for any other reason. It's very, very necessary to say that only a particular thing. Well, I'm one of those. I don't subscribe to it because I know, and everybody understands that wherever we are, whichever regiment we are, whether we are and wherever we are, everybody in this country is die hard a countryman, a die hard an Indian, a die hard a patriotic who will serve the nation with pride, who will ensure that the territorial integrity of the sovereignty is just a question of time. And therefore, we have 4 years, and in this 4 years, the government must put it down in black and white that yes, these 75% just need not worry, their jobs are assured. That is given. I think
so you are very optimistic, very sure that the scheme will actually succeed. But Major General Yash Moore, there are promises made, there are assurances given, things are being worked out. Isn't this enough for youth to really give it a chance if the government, the center, and is promising them, and so much of a thought is given before the scheme is announced? So obviously those things should have been looked into and would be implemented. Perhaps that should be some sort of an assurance to the youth. But I do agree to your point that 2.5 years is a long time that they have been waiting, and they're not very sure.
Zafar, if you just see the manner in which this scheme has come, whom are we fooling? Are we throwing wool in front of our eyes? हम मिट्टी झोंक रहे हैं एक दूसरे की आंखों में, ये हो जाएगा, फलाना हो जाएगा. कहां से हो जाएगा, कैसे हो जाएगा? Why there was so secrecy about this? Even in the parliament, when this question was asked, we were said कि because of COVID we have not. Nobody disclosed that a scheme is coming, and we were asking people. Centers were, empty. Regimental centers empty for 1.5 to 2 years, and the hush. Nobody in the service was talking about it. In the Air Force, I've been today morning talking to these boys who had to just join. Just call letter was waiting. Every month they were getting an email. Due to administrative reason, there is a delay. There's a delay. We are doing it. मतलब आप क्या कर रहे हो? ये नौजवान है देश के. ये कोई मतलब what is it we are doing? So it was shrouded in secrecy. So there is a trust deficit, and nobody is going to buy this 10% here, 20%. It has never happened. It will not happen. I can tell you, we all know our country, we all know our systems, our bureaucracy, we know our interministerial issues between various ministries. We are aware of it. It's not suddenly things will change and it'll get into those things happen in the military, but they don't happen when other departments of the government are involved. That is one thing. The other thing that I've been trying to stress the issue is that this 75, how are you going to select these 25 will you take? 4 साल में there is no ACR, there is no way he is getting any other training. What? And you people suddenly समझे बड़े tech savvy होंगे, बहुत मोटे. अरे it is the same pool, वही गांव के बच्चे हैं. कोई suddenly colleges के बच्चे नहीं आ रहे हैं फौज में भर्ती होने. It's the same boys from villages who are running around for you go, just take your car please and walk out गाजियाबाद, फरीदाबाद, रोहतक, कहीं सुबह चले हो, 300-400 बच्चे दौड़ते नजर आते. शेखावटी रीजन में एकेडमीज खुली हुई, पता ही नहीं ना हमारे लोगों को. हम लोग इतना डिटैच हो गए हैं, लीडरशिप इतनी डिटैच्ड है, मैं बता रहा हूँ गांव से. I'm very sorry.
In fact, the report we did, our reporter did it from an academy only, where he spoke to those aspirants.
Is becoming larger. We read what comes in the media and we form our opinions, but the situation is very serious. These boys, this 75% getting jobs is not good. Who is going to assure them? You'll go to railways, there go CAPF, corporate zero, only guard. What you mentioned, I didn't like it. Is this what a soldier is meant for? You go to any bank.
I just gave an example. I said that this can happen.
I know it. This is what is happening. 15 years के बाद जवान who's a tank commander, air defense guy, radar, अच्छे RR में इतने brave soldiers, सब नौकरी नहीं. There's no jobs. and none of them will get a job. I'm telling you this. Let's be frank, ना. हम सोल्जर हैं, हम थोड़ी गोलमोल बातें करेंगे, हम कैसे किसको सुनाएंगे ये बात. So time is put a stop to this. Take a recall. Admit those who have been waiting for 2.5 years. उस process में wherever they had reached, re-medical करा लो, दोबारा करा लो, written test, whatever. Give them assurance. At least 20-30% उनके ले लो and do a test trial. In military, we have such senior people sitting in front of me. There always come with test bedding. Some trial. TA की 10 unit खड़ी कर लो, please. Let's do it in TA, territorial army.
There is always a scope of review. Obviously, nothing is being put in stone and it has to be implemented like that. There's always a scope. There should be rather a scope for review.
Some trial, some test bed somewhere, some feedback, 1 or 2 years, then do it. What is the hurry? Is the country so poor we can't pay our soldiers? Is the pension bill become so much that we can't pay our? Is the country so poor? No, I think we are lacking in empathy.
Yes, we've been getting diverse views on this issue. Yesterday, the army commander, Northern Army commander, interacted with the media in Srinagar. He said, if you look at the glass, you'll see whether the glass is half full or half empty. It depends on you. But the point that he emphasized on, he said that in army, you get a certain set of ethos and values that you will always carry with you, whether you later join the force or you are not in the force. He said that if something wrong happens on the street, and Agniveer will step forward and try and save the situation. So before we go ahead, let's just play out that sound bite.
सबसे पहली चीज है कि ये आधा जब ग्लास होता है तो आपको देखना है आधा ग्लास है या आधा खाली, भरा है या खाली है. तो अगर आप सिर्फ खाली की तरफ देखेंगे तो खाली नजर आएगा, नेगेटिव नजर आएगा. अगर आप उसको भरा देखेंगे तो पॉजिटिव नजर आएगा. सबसे बड़ी चीज ये है कि भारत देश इतना बड़ा सिविलाइजेशन है, तो अगर आप लंबे रास्ते में देखिए, अगर 4 साल वो ट्रेनिंग करेगा तो वो हमेशा पॉजिटिविटी की तरफ जाएगा. आप देखिए एक जिम्मेदार नागरिक बन, मैं तो आपको ये तक उदाहरण दे रहा हूँ. और देखिए कहीं पे जैसे क्राइम हो रहा होता है कहीं, तो लोग क्या करते हैं, देखा करके एक तरफ चल देते. लेकिन मैं आपको ये विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूँ कि जब ये अग्निवीर कहीं सड़क पे चल रहा होगा और किसी के साथ भी नाइंसाफी हो रही होगी, कोई लड़की किसी को छेड़ रहा होगा, तो आप देखेंगे कि अग्निवीर आगे बढ़ के उसको रोकेगा और ये यकीन दिलाएगा कि जो उसकी आर्मी सर्विस है वो काम आएगी इस चीज में. यहां तक ये है कि लोग नेगेटिव में जा सकते हैं. देखिए हमारी कोशिश ये है कि ये जो 4 साल की ट्रेनिंग देगा, इसके बाद ये होल ऑफ नेशन अप्रोच जिसको हम बोलते हैं. आज ही आप देखिए, अभी मध्य प्रदेश के चीफ मिनिस्टर ने बोला है कि जो हमारे पुलिस है उसमें हम इसको प्रायोरिटी देंगे. हमारे होम मिनिस्टर जी ने बोला है, अभी अमित शाह जी ने ट्वीट किया है कि हम ऑलरेडी स्कीम बना रहे हैं कि हम इनको कैसे प्रायोरिटी देंगे सीएपीएफ में जो लोग होंगे. उसी प्रकार से एक हमारी भारत को बहुत बड़ी कंपनी है जिसमें बाबा कल्याणी करके हैं, जिन्होंने मिलिट्री स्कूल में खुद तरबियत हासिल की है. उन्होंने भी बोला है कि जैसे ही लोग बाहर आएंगे मैं इनको दोनों हाथ से इनको कबूल करने के लिए तैयार हूं.
Okay, so let's have a last word from our panelists. Major General Dhruv Katoch, starting from you.
You see, fundamentally, as I made a mention earlier, the scheme is flawed. You simply want to save the pension bill, but your members of parliament, they do 5 years, you give them pension. In Kerala, anybody who serves with the minister for 2 years is given a pension for life, right? Here, the whole scheme has started to save the pension bill. Your premise is flawed. Because your premise is flawed, everything which flows out of it will be flawed, which is why they must scrap it, and they must scrap it now.
They must scrap it. Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma. Yeah, if you can unmute. Yeah. No, we can't hear you.
It's been muted
Yes, now it's fine.
Now see, the point I want to raise is that there is a saving in the salary bill. Why? Because there has been a lack of recruitment over a period of time. What we will have about 9-10% deficiency existing, and time passing, this might enhance to some other issues. So we say if it's 1 lakh people less, it saves about 1,000 crores a year, which isn't a Herculean amount being saved in the salary bill. The pension bill will make an effect after 19 years when he retires, 4 years here, 15 years service subsequently. So the pension bill, actually the government is not taking advantage of the pension bill now, but it will have a long time effect after 19 years when he is due for the pension. Now, 2-3 things I want to raise is one.
Okay, we seem to have
To take place. How the transition will take place from 4 years to 5 years is an important issue that needs.
Okay, we seem to have some problem with the line there. Yes, if I can go. Okay, if I can go to you. Yeah. If I can go to you, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, for your last word.
Zafar, I can only say, change is resisted, but we will not really stretch it too far. The implementation matters. If the 75% who seem to be feeling apprehensive, and all of us are apprehensive as to they should not fall into wrong hands and they should not be doing anything. And once the jobs are short, and as what the government itself says that 80% of the CAPF recruitment is down, and therefore there is a lot. But all of it must be given in writing. However, the taste of the pudding lies in eating. And all of it would be seen only after 4 or 5 years from now onwards, how this is. But I think to begin with, since it is there with us, Agniveers are there with us. Now, this is the only thing that has been given to us. It can be tweeted and be made more responsive to the demands of the services as and when the time passes. I think the aim must be to ensure that the complete scheme is a success by proper implementation, by ensuring that the combat potential is not denuded in any case, and at the same time, 75% of the people walking out, we have enough time, 4 years, to ensure that they need not worry. If that is ensured, I think that's the acid test for the success of this scheme.
Major General Yash Moore, last word from
last
you.
words. First of all, please look at those recruitments which have been stopped. This is absolutely unfair, appears to be illegal also. When they have applied for a government notification, first recruit them, assuage their feelings, and give them age relaxation. And because of the system fault, they have become overage. Secondly, bring a trial, test bed the scheme. To me, this doesn't look to be a good starter. If you are unable to enthuse your youth, then what is the use of getting the scheme? And so I think these 2 steps we must take. Have a trial, and please get these boys who have already selected and ready to join the forces.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion. Obviously, such an important topic, and we're getting so much of a diverse views on this. One thing is for sure, that everything is open for review. It can be reviewed, it can be checked and rechecked. And obviously, as you raised an important point, that people who have been preparing for all this time, there's no fault of theirs. They should also be their issues should also be looked into. So all those factors should be taken into consideration before, as it's a work in progress. The announcement has already been made. Let's hope that things fall in place and a proper review is made, so that youth who are on the roads at the moment also get a sense of hope and would be able to pursue their dreams of joining the armed forces the way they have been doing in the past. Thanks so much to all our panelists for joining us. That's all we have in today's show. Thanks for joining.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalists.